The Aeon Voyager's Dawn was no humble vessel. It was, to be sure, a wonder of human and alien construction welded together and thrust at speeds where even space and time would surrender to the power of meaning. In its brilliant, dark-seeming hull were combined alliance-bisted crews, humans, Syrians, and Thalosians, and the enigmatic species involved in the symphony of life aboard. He turned knobs, his fingers finally having something to do with themselves as they tap-danced over surfaces that seemed to offer what he was after in haptic feedback. This nebula was the celestial nursery, where stars began and galaxies of tomorrow took their first flurries. It was beautiful, yes, but Jack hated that its beauty was in harsh contrast to the fragility of life. He had lost more than he would ever let himself admit in these starry cradles, not least his sister Jaina, most painfully, in a failed pirate. Approaching Waypoint Echo, murmured the ship's navigator, Lieutenant Sila. Hers was the voice of eternal calm. It placed some measure of peace into the otherwise intense atmosphere of the void of deep space. Steady as she goes, Lieutenant. Keep us on the fringe. I don't want to wake any sleeping giants, Jack replied, his voice full of a levity he didn't feel. After all, there was no telling what was out there. Outside the glass of the bridge, beyond the protective veil of the nebula, the stillness was only broken by a soft ping. External scanners picked up some faraway masses moving within the outer cloud. Jack hovered his hand over the communication panel, ready to give orders at the first sign of bad. This region of space had become increasingly contested, with pirates and separatist factions vying for control over the rich resources hidden in these ancient clouds. The door hissed open as Dr. Lena Voss, the ship's chief scientist, stepped onto the bridge. The nebula held her inexplicably, and her eyes were fixed on the viewscreen. Lena said this as she stood next to Jack. Every time I see it, it's like looking at the dawn of time. Makes you wonder what secrets are still hidden out here, Jack mused, his eyes never leaving the viewscreen. Sometimes, I think space is just waiting to reveal them to the right explorer. Lena simply nodded, her thoughts clearly going towards all those scientific discoveries just waiting to be made. But Jack saw more in the nebula than a scientific curiosity. To him, it represented one more piece of evidence that danger from the unknown might strike at any time. His mission, his duty, was to keep the Alliance with a toe in the water here, to protect the shipping lanes and the settlements that relied on them. The sensors pinged an anomaly, a thin signal emanating from the center of the nebula as the ship continued on its patrol. It was weak, but distinctly artificial, a ghost of technology not known by any species of the Alliance. Sila, do lay a course for that signal. Let us see what the nebula hides in its embrace this day, he said with a stern voice, although with a touch of discomfort. The crew tensed, feeling the change in their captain in the very air. The Voyager's Dawn crept forward in its helios, engines pulsing softly as they threaded through the cosmic matrix. Every maneuver they made brought them one step closer to the unknown, closer to dangers or unearthing discoveries that might just realign the power structures of the galaxy forever. His thoughts drifted to his sister, her laughter but a ghost in his ears. This one would be for her, for all of those lost to the impersonal void of space. And yet, his will stiffened. Now he would face whatever came at him with courage and will, for the Alliance, for peace and those lost. Into the heart of the nebula he would venture, to face the secrets it holds. Chapter 2, Shadows of the Past. 20 years earlier, a young Jack and sister Jenna played amidst the rugged outcroppings, overlooking the drilling fields on the mining colony of Tethys. It was a tough place. It was a frontier world. Their families like his scraped a life together from the mines and the minerals they pulled from inside the planet's crust. There, amidst the dust and din of the machinery on the apparently prosaic periphery of the Empire, Jack began to forge a sense of duty and protection. The sudden alert brought Captain Orion back to the present. The source of the signal to which they were headed had been reached. and what just lay in front of them was beyond ordinary. A derelict vessel, old and adrift, whose origins were a mystery tugging at the edge of the known galaxy's history. Scan the vessel. Look for any signs of life or residual energy signatures, he ordered, voice sharp to cut through the silence that had fallen over the bridge. Lieutenant Silo worked her console, her fingers tap-dancing along holographic displays. No life signs detected, Captain. It seems the vessel is abandoned, possibly having been so for centuries. But something else. It isn't just the design. The materials used to build it don't match with anything from our database. Jack's curiosity was getting piqued. One new technology could tip the scales in this constant dance of balance throughout the galaxy. It could be a beacon of hope, or it could be a long-lost relic of some civilization, with knowledge or threats above imagination. Prepare a boarding party. We're going in, Jack decided, resolution half his face. The shadow of the unknown threw dark danger in the face of discovery for him. The darkness of his past seemed to be somewhere nearby. As for the second time, the memory of Jenna flashed into his mind, this time more realistic. The day of the raid was a scar on the soul. Pirates had attacked Tethys, and in the confusion, Jenna had disappeared, presumed taken, or worse. This loss had torn through Jack and left him in shatters, propelling him into a career with the Interstellar Navy, where he vowed never again to allow the weak or poor to fall to those who could not fight for themselves. The boarding party assembled, each in their suit and equipment, Dr. Lena Voss among them, eyes alight with the thrill of discovery. Jack himself leading the team into the decompression chamber that would take them into the ancient ship's bowels. As they moved through the uncanny, quiet corridors of the vessel, each shadow seemed to whisper secrets of a bygone age. The architecture was out of this world, with the walls ornamented by strange symbols that shone dully under the life they emanated. In its central chamber, they found an intricate artifact pulsating with a blue glow. The object was connected to a console that emitted a soft hum, an echo of its once great, unearthly power. Lena approached the artifact with the scanner. This energy signature, unlike anything I have ever seen, not just ancient. It might be the first of its kind, a prototype of technology predating our current understanding. Jack peered over her shoulder, his mind racing with the implications for such a discovery. It could change everything. But the joy of uncovering this discovery was overshadowed by a deeper, more personal revelation. There, etched into the console beside the artifact, was a symbol he recognized. An insignia that also had been scribed on the pirates' ships that had attacked Tethys. The year passed and the present crashed in Jack's mind. Raid, loss of Jenna, and now this mysterious ship. Somehow, it all seemed to be connected. His mission had clearly gotten a new dimension, not just to explore but bring into the light some truth hidden behind the shadows of the past. As they prepared to leave and head back to the Voyager's dawn, Jack felt that a heavy weight had somewhat lifted off him. It was an uncertain path ahead with danger and dark revelations, but every step brought him closer to understanding what happened to shape his life and possibly closer to finding peace for Jenna's memory. Chapter 3, The Raider's Creed. Somewhere on the very edge of the Tiberius sector hung a sleek fleet of dark ships. They sat like vultures do over a dying star. Their hulls, marred with countless skirmishes, glinted and gleamed in the light of a sun that was many millions of miles away, and within these confines was housed one Commander Zara, enigmatic leader of the separatist faction. Her forces went by the name of the Free Stellar Alliance. The bridge served as her command center, located at the very helm of the flagship Revenant, as mighty in firepower as it was fierce in appearance. The air was filled with the applause of voices within the Revenant. Zara stood before the holographic map, reading the trajectories of the Alliance trade routes, the galaxy's lifelines to its sprawling civilizations. Her jaded crew of Alliance deserters and hardened space outlaws watched her with admiration and fear. Prepare to intercept the next cargo fleet at the carry-on pass. They won't expect an attack so close to Alliance space, Zara ordered, tone firm and unyielding. Close behind was Thane, a veteran of the cause, as weathered and rough as his name suggested. His nod of approval was never removed from her face. Fleet in position, Zara retired to her Spartan quarters. These rooms held only a galaxy map that hung from one wall and a few personal effects. One, an old, yellowing photograph, showed a much younger Zara smiling at the camera with her brother. He was shot down in an Alliance raid against their home planet, an event that truly fueled the flames of her crusade against what she saw as an oppressive central power. As commander, the fleet of the Alliance just entered the sector much ahead of their anticipated schedule. It is lightly guarded and is our only chance. A nagging communication from her lookout disturbed Zara's reverie. Activate cloaking devices, and let's get ready to strike, she replied, putting her mind quickly into shifting thoughts from the past to the present. The thought of the coming strike raced her heart. This was what made her feel in her element. It wasn't but a heartbeat later when the fleet of Zara appeared out of the darkness of space, opening fire with ion cannons and plasma torpedoes. The Alliance fleet was caught off guard, scrambling. They attempted to throw up a defense, but there was no hope for them against the ferocity of the raiders. There she was, right in the thick of it, driving her ship with absolute predator-like precision. Every move calculated, every strike lethal, while here and there through the void the debris of Alliance ships was hurtled. A new pang of doubt shadowed her triumph. In every wrecked ship there were lives actually lost, many of whom might have shared with her their own grievances against the Alliance. Back on the Revenant, her crew raged with celebration. Zara retreated to her quarters, thoughts heavy on her mind. She pulled up the photograph again, her brother's smile a ghostly echo of better days. It justified, she told herself, her fight on the Alliance was a necessary rebellion against tyranny. But the cost, the lives, it claimed, weighed on her conscience. During that first second after the twinge of vulnerability, Zara scribbled a journal entry, a confession for no one's ears but her own. Today we claimed another victory, but at what cost? Are we liberators, or have we become the oppressors we despise? The question hung in the air, unanswered. The chapter had closed with Zara standing at her ship's viewport, looking out at the swirling nebula, a storm of color in the midst of the vast blackness, beautiful and terrifying much like the path she had taken. For now silent witnesses, the stars remained witness as Zara fortified herself for the onslaught ahead, for resolve tempered by the twin forces of conviction and doubt. The galaxy was changing, and she was both its architect and its destroyer. Chapter 4. Intel Discovery. During the half-light of the war room, there was an undercurrent of tension in the bulky form of the Voyage's Dawn as its captain, Jack Orion, and his senior officers clustered around the holotable. Ordinarily, the room would be alive with the operational jabber, one would have thought typical of flagship discipline, but the sullen silence prevailing at the moment was grave in its presentation as the decrypted data harvested from the derelict vessel was, for want of a better word, postulated. Each flicker of the hologram seemed to pulse with the urgency of the secrets it was poised to reveal. Lieutenant Silo worked the digital controls to magnify the image of the fine circuit pattern, a face of concentration spliced with concern, schematic, unambiguously alien, and light years ahead of anything the records of the Alliance had in. Captain, this is no mere weapon. It is a power source that could alter the very form of space-time, she told him, her voice steady even as the magnitude of what she was saying hit her. Jack leaned in, his eyes tracing the complex array of symbols that marked the schematic. Could this be what the Separatists are after? He mused aloud, not expecting an answer. If the Separatists, worse yet the pirates, managed to get such technology, the peace in the galaxy, already somewhat fragile, may shatter into a million pieces. We need to find the origin of this technology. There could be more out there, Entire systems powered by these. What shall we call them? Let's say Star Core. He nodded in reply, only strengthening his resolve. Get a recon mission ready. We will follow the signal that brought us to the wreck back to its point of origin. There must be a planet, an installation, something. The bow contained assurance, and the crew responded swiftly to his orders with an efficiency befitting the most seasoned of professionals. It was when the crew set to work, flaring the engines of the Voyager's Dawn with a silent, roaring intensity that hurled the star-strewn blackness over a beam, sending them down into the slipstream to shimmer around the ship into a tunnel of smeared light. The trip to the coordinates seemed instantaneous, hardly a pause in the long, cool night of space. But to Jack, every instant was overstressed by waiting. The coordinates led to an uncharted system. A lonely star surrounded by the wreckage of a shattered planet, its pieces floating in space like some lost ruined civilization. Scan the debris, Jack ordered, his voice cutting by the suspenseful atmosphere in the bridge. The same alien material on the ship appeared on the scanners. It tightened his gut. They were onto something there. I think we found our StarCore factory, Lena said, with the faintest tremor of excitement in her voice. She already began formulating a theory about some civilization advanced enough to harness the power of a star but maybe a bit too ambitious, hence the end of them all. Jack wondered, his thoughts growing darker. Or we've just found their graveyard, he said. The implications are chilling, powerfully reminding us that the thin line between advancement and annihilation has rarely been more porous. As they neared it, the structure amidst the rubble became clear enough. The remains of a facility cut into the wall itself, its walls containing the same pulsating energy signatures they had seen before. We go in, Jack decided, finality in his judgment. Full suits, arm detail. As our small boarding party had been selected, not for numbers but for specific skills, and, it had to be said, nerve. As the team jetted down towards the facility, the soft blue glow of the star core energy illuminated their suits, filling the air with a sense of foreboding. He glanced around and found no sign of life. Only echoes of the technology that whispered of secrets of great power and, perhaps, of consequences most dire. The walls hummed with energy, the like of which had laid dormant for ages. The air was thick with the dust of ages. As in the central chamber, amidst the web of dozing consoles and darkened screens, Lena found it, a database still partly operational, holding logs, diagrams, star maps. She got to work with all the data there had been. This was it, she breathed in, awe and fear in her eyes as the data streamed in, knowledge of the stars, their life, their power, and maybe their end. They all felt the weight of what the team had found. This place was the entrance to a treasure trove of knowledge, but also, with what was found, a Pandora's box. Those things may be done next, which may bring a new age of prosperity or lead them down a road from which one could never return. At the helm stood Jack, a data chip with the knowledge of gems, a storehouse of the vanished centuries, securely in his hand. The ship's course now set the course for the future, not of just the Alliance but of living creatures across the galaxy.